Yo, what's popping? What's popping? What's popping? Welcome to Hot Takes with Chedda Chaz. There's no handhold. We do fast, not emotion. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification if you haven't already. Shout out to Miller Lite, DraftKings, Topo Chico. You guys should support them because they support us. Shout out to the big three as always. I want to send some thoughts and prayers out to Nate Robinson, former NBA player. Brother's currently going through dialysis. He's looking for a kidney transplant. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers, Pelicans family. But yeah, I want to talk about this team today, man. You know, the Pelicans, they ended on a 3-game winning streak going into All-Star break. I think we're all happy that it's finally All-Star break. I know the team is. The question I keep asking myself is, has this team peaked already? Have they peaked too early? And, you know, are they due for a bit of a downslide? I think you kind of see them struggling against, I'm not even going to say mediocre, struggling against really bad teams these last 3 or 4 outings, if you consider this, you know, count the Spurs also. So you got the Spurs. Well, you know, that was a heavyweight bout, but they pulled off the win. They beat the Clippers in impressive fashion. Got stumped out by the Lakers. Then you had the Blazers without Scoot and Simons. So that was a heavyweight battle. You had the Memphis Grizzlies without anyone except for Jared Jackson Jr. That was a heavyweight battle. And you had last night versus the Wizards without Kyle Kuzma at home. And that was a heavyweight battle. The most important thing is that you're winning. So if anyone wants to consider, you know, these last 3 outings or this season in totality a failure already, at least they're failing forward. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you're going to fail, fall forward. So at least they're falling forward. They're winning. And at the end of the day, all wins and losses count the same. I know if you want to get into the context and nuance of it all, they probably shouldn't count the same, but they count the same. So what that tells me is that this team is still, talent-wise, it's a better than average team. They're better than the average and below average teams of the NBA. Something that we had hoped for, but I think that was a bit of the minimum. You know what I'm saying? I think we hope for this team to be a serious contender and not necessarily just better than average. So some numbers are a bit troubling, and it kind of gives you an idea of where certain players are trending and where the team may be trending. Now, I'm going to start with Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson has 8 30-point games this season. And he has 5 of those 8 30-point games in his last 14 games. So that seems to me like he's trending in the right direction. Rebounding is still an issue. Defense is still an issue. Some nights he looks really good. Some nights he looks like, what's going on here? You know what I'm saying? So he himself said he's about 93%. I don't know. I mean, nobody knows him better than him, but that's such an interesting, weird number. Okay. So now I'm going to go with CJ. CJ's shooting has fallen off quite a bit since his last incredible outing. He kind of got back into the flow of things versus the Wizards, but prior to that, he was having some really, really rough outings. You're hoping that a person who's a seasoned veteran like himself can use this break to kind of refresh and get back into the groove of things. I don't believe he has any All-Star weekend activities. Hawkins is nailed to the bench. You may never see him again. Dyson Daniels is out indefinitely, so shout out to him, for us dealing with that meniscus injury. Luckily for him, he has Trey and Zion to lean on for advice and support, because they both dealt with that injury. Brandon Ingram, he's having a bit of a shooting rut, especially since that Raptors game where I think he had like 8 threes. He's in a bit of a shooting drought. I could be mistaken, but I think since that Raptors game, I think someone said he was like 4 for 6. It was, I don't want to say the wrong thing. It was something crazy though. It was something crazy combined. I think he's made about 4 threes since that Raptors game, and he made 2 of them last night versus the Wizards. So I'm not really sure how many attempts he's taken. I didn't even bother looking it up, but I know it's been bad. I know he went like 0 for 2, 0 for 4, 1 for 2. Like it's been bad. BI has 23 games this season where he scored 20 points or less. No, I'm sorry, 19 points or less. 23 games this season where he scored 19 points or less. That's really bad. That is really bad considering the contract situation, and this being essentially a contract year for him. Because if you didn't get the best version of him this year, what do you expect to get moving forward? Mind you, none of these players have dealt with any significant injuries, so this is pretty much them, with the exception of maybe Trey and Zion to a lesser extent. But Zion's thing is more self-inflicted because he came into camp out of shape. So this is pretty much who these guys are at this point. Jonas Valanciunas, he's been excellent in my opinion. Been excellent, consummate professional. Herb Jones has been excellent, consummate professional. Willie Green has been awful, god awful. A lot of y'all know my opinion on Willie Green already. I think Willie Green's one of the worst coaches in the NBA, if not the worst, considering the amount of talent he has. The front office, they did a terrible job grinding out the back end of this roster. Didn't take any injury considerations. Didn't take any possible injuries into consideration because right after the trade deadline, Dyson Daniels goes down. So now you probably need another wing backcourt player, maybe. You know what I'm saying? And they just gonna roll with what they got. If you look at the buyout market, Gallinari, he's supposed to be going to Milwaukee or the Clippers, if I'm not mistaken. That's per Pat Bev's podcast. Shout out to him. I don't know. Some people talk about Robin Lopez. Maybe, I guess, in the event that Larry goes down again. Larry, who hasn't really played well since returning from injury the third time since returning from injury. He hasn't played very well. It's just, shout out to Najee and Jose for just, coming out doing what they asked. But the biggest issue is really this starting unit. This starting unit is a huge issue. And the reason why I feel like this team may have peaked already, because the only real possible change would be Brandon taking more threes, because you're not going to take Herb out of the starting lineup. You're not taking Jonas out of the starting lineup, but I don't think that would help anyway. So the only real change you can implement is like Brandon taking more threes, Zion rebounding more, playing better defense, because what else could you possibly do? Only 4 or 5 man like lineups in the league have played 250 minutes and have a negative rating, right? It's only 4 of them. The Pelicans are one of them. The Hawks are one of them. The Wizards are one of them. And the Toronto Raptors are the other one. So it's the Pelicans and 3 teams below 500. That should tell you, like, sometimes you got to zoom out. You know what I'm saying? You got to zoom out. You got to inspect the victories that the Pelicans have had. You got to look at the losses that they've had. They left money on the table. They probably won some games they shouldn't have won. They probably lost some games they shouldn't have lost. Like, it's a lot of things that signal, a not so bright future for this team. And for me, I feel like if this isn't a Western Conference Finals team at minimum, it's like, what's the point of it all? Because ultimately, you got some decisions to make in the offseason that, will allow or disallow this team from taking a step forward. You can't run back the same roster next season, and that means doing away with one of your max players, because that's the only way you'll have financial flexibility to fill out the rest of the roster. So for me, I think this is as good as it gets for the Pelicans. I think this is as good as it gets. I think this team has they've managed to underachieve and overachieve at the same time. That's impressive. Managed to underachieve and overachieve at the same time. I can't say I'm disappointed, but I at least expected certain players to put up a better argument. Like, you know what I'm saying? I at least expected for me to say, well, shit, it's hard to argue with Brandon's numbers. He's been playing great. Or shit, it's hard to argue with Zion's rebound and his production. He's been playing incredible. It's not so much of an argument there for those guys even being like all-star caliber players this season. It's not really an argument there for them to be all NBA caliber players. The league is incredibly talented right now, especially in the West. If you look at like even the play-in teams, like look at those play-in teams and tell me which one of those teams you'll be comfortable playing in a sudden death matchup or in a 7-game series. And you probably wouldn't be comfortable playing any of them. The Warriors, Lakers, I think the Jazz are a bit on the outside looking in right now. Dallas is 7th right now, about a game or so behind the Pelicans. It's no, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think Dallas is in 7th. Dallas or Sacramento's in 7th. So man, it's going to be a tough battle going to the playoffs, because March is a serious schedule. Like, go look at the schedule in March. I wrote it down. I think the Pelicans play Let me see. The Pelicans play 18 games against opponents over 500 the rest of the season. After All-Star break, the Pelicans play 18 games against opponents over 500. So ain't gonna be too many cupcake matchups. Ain't gonna be too many. So you gotta hope they at least go 500 against the opponents who are over 500. That's 99. And you got to hope for no injuries. You got to hope for a better three-point output from Brandon Ingram. You got to hope for more rebounding and defense from Zion. You got to hope CJ plays better. You got to hope Trey Murphy is refreshed and you get the better version of him coming out after All-Star break. You got to hope Willie Green pull his head out of his ass. You know, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough sledding. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think the Pelicans have peaked? Do you think there's a lot of room to grow for this team? Pause. Do you think the best is yet to be seen? That's for today's show. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. It's your dog, Chedda Chaz. I'm out. Peace.